Well, this is something I did not, and in fact, no one expected to see this coming. So, hey guys, it's Apollo here. So it is time for a little different video. This is more of my little initial thoughts on a new deck that's coming out in the next set next month. And if you guys didn't know by now, if you see the stream last night, Chaos Breaker is finally coming back to standard. I am not joking, and I wish I'm joking. He's coming back to standard. So my initial thought when I heard the word that Chaos Breaker came is that I was going adrenaline crazy in a good way and a bad way. Good way because I played Chaos Breaker last time back in the original era, and also being to extent. And the bad way because it's how Chaos Breaker might affect the game when it comes out. So let's go cut to the startup point where I would say why I think Chaos Breaker is a very controversial card, and also the fact that he does have the whether how Bushido will implement Chaos Breaker into standard might be a very big speculation, which I will point out my personal point of view and also some my speculations on how he will be in standard. And just to put out there, this is all my personal opinion, so you feel free to agree, disagree. At the same time, whatever I'm saying right now, please take it with a grain of salt. So, yeah, let's go there. So, okay, so started off, last night in the stream where they revealed Chaos Breaker, or rather, the art rather, that is where a lot of people are going crazy. So, if you guys didn't know by now, lock is a mechanic where you turn your graveyard face down, and it doesn't do anything. It stays locked there until the end of your turn if you're the owner of the lock card. So basically what it means is that you can't intercept, you can't attack, you can't boost it. It stays there. You cannot touch it at all. The only way you can technically get rid of it is that if there's a card that bounces a card in circle back to your hand, or any way that or form to say on the circle rather than being a rear guard, because lock cards are not rear guards. They're cards on lock circles. So to put it very simply, and to put it on in standard, lock is, if anything, I think some people might agree, most people agree with me, is that lock is the mechanic that in standard, at least, is the very last mechanic anyone would think of, or any deck will play and implement it in the game. Because if you, as of now, 9th Chaos Breaker, there's only two cards that lock in the deck: Messiah and Arsaria. Messiah does lock, although the lock has the lock is special in the sense that you have the Alter Ego Messiah crest, but at the end of your turn, after they all unlock and be bound. So that means it's not a full turn lock, but it's the same lock where you can't do anything, but ultimately after your turn, the lock card just gets bound. So that is the only way to balance lock. Well, there's one way to balance lock in standard. The other lock, which is Arsaria, is that it locks for a full turn. Albeit you need to use the Mega Romania order in order to lock something. And so yes, sure, it is a 1-turn lock. It's a full 1-turn full lock, and it's only one card. So Arsaria can only lock one card per turn, and that's all she can do. She doesn't lock many more cards than that. So in a sense, these two decks, they kind of make it balanced in the sense that it's not overwhelmingly strong or overwhelmingly crazy where it breaks the matches and also the game. In fact, I think that's probably the reason why Link Joker back in the day was meta, especially in the OG era, because if you're locked, you can't do anything unless there's a card that lets you unlock, which at a time there's a few cards that unlock, but not all clans have that privilege. So yeah, pretty much lock is a very, very powerful mechanic in standard, and it's the last mechanic we can ever go near it. And if they do, they have to find a way to balance it so that it will not break the game. And that leads to my point where what would Chaos Breaker do when it comes back to standard? So in fact, how would they implement Chaos Breaker lock into the game? So there are many ways I've discussed it with my peers. I've discussed it with my fellow peers of mine, and there's a few ways I can think of how lock will work. Again, like I said, don't take my work personally or take it seriously. Just take it a grain of salt, because ultimately, whatever Bushi comes up with, we will see. We'll find out when the reveals are here. So basically, so when Chaos Breaker does bring back lock, it does mean a few things. So first off, how would Chaos Breaker implement your lock? So when Chaos Breaker implements a lock, they cannot make a lock where it's like crazy strong, where in the OG era where they would do a triangle lock. That's really crazy strong, and that is really unfair. I don't think I very much doubt Bushi would do this to the current standard format. And if they do this, that would be like it will break the game entirely. That's which is why I, even as a Chaos Breaker player myself in standard, sorry, in V and to extent G, I would not like. I don't really like it when. Yeah, I know. I know. It's coming from a guy who plays Chaos Breaker, but again, in standard, I don't. I pray they don't do that because that will break the game entirely and it's really unfair. So, alright. Now, here comes the stuff that I am speculating about Chaos Breaker. So, in terms of lock, there are many ways to get implemented. So, I've discussed it with my peers. That's my favorite players of mine. So, one way they could implement lock is that they would do. Okay, this is probably the most probable one, but again, it's not confirmed. This is what I have observed throughout the whole Z, and I'll see, and this is how I can see it. So one way that Chaos Breaker will implement lock is that they will do a column lock, meaning say that one column will be locked, and that means they cannot attack anything on that one column. It's stays locked there. So that's the maximum they can do. So in my opinion, the column lock, at least the way I see it, is probably more balanced because if you didn't know, D standard as of now has the most of this have the ability to multi attack. So doing the multi attack means that okay, at most a deck can do 6 attacks at once, and an average, okay, like an average normal deck, they can do 5-6 attacks for a deck. If Chaos Breaker were to have the column lock, the most they can do is 4 attack, which is in a sense more balanced in a way, but at the same time, it does suck because you just have to hinder one column, and that itself might be the most probable way I think Chaos Breaker might bring back lock into standard, because if they were to do a triangle lock, like I said many times, triangle lock is probably the last type of lock we want to see in standard format, and if they do, it's gonna kill the game. I would just say at first. So column lock just allows them to have still can multi attack, but maybe not as much. So it is still possible that Chaos Breaker can do that. Another way is that they can do lock is that they can lock a front row rear guard and a back row rear guard. So essentially, the most probable way is that they'll do a front row rear guard lock and a Vanguard booster lock. That's also another way. Although to be fair, having a semi-triangle lock, if I will call it semi-triangle lock, is a bit it's controversial. Like some people think, well, sometimes Vanguards don't need boosters, so that it can find its own, no issue. Well, others might think that sometimes they have good boosters. If they lock the booster, then they can't do much. And sure, they still have two or four attacks at most, but it is still painful because sometimes the Vanguard booster does make a difference. So let's just put it there. And that is one of the two types of way that Chaos Breaker can be unlocked. And speaking of that, being a Brain Gate deck, which Chaos Breaker belongs to, there's a chance that they might have a set order. So I don't know what the set order does or how would they implement set order into Chaos Breaker. And in fact, I think I saw some of the Twitter posts last night. Some people are trying to tell you that hey, you should get these stuff if you want to become Chaos Breaker. One of them is Bloody Maker, obviously. I have Bloody Maker. Probably gonna take out 2. I have both Daikisha and Daikaiser, so I'm probably taking out 2 of my Bloody Makers for my Daikisha. I'll just give it because again I'm not playing Dimensional Bulls that often. I know it's my favorite. Yeah, I know it's right there, but I'm mostly favorite Daikaiser as opposed to Daikisha. So I probably might take out 2 of the Bloody Makers, put them into Chaos Breaker. So that's very simple. Solar Friends are also the ones that you might want to consider because Solar Friends, as far as I can see, like for all the incarnations of Chaos Breaker, it does require it does something to do with souls. So there is a chance that you might need to get these soul in front. And again, I think it's cheap now as of this video. So if you can find them cheap, get them now just in case, so you don't make a big loss when you get them later when the cards are revealed. And speaking of reveal, Chaos Breaker, given how popular Chaos Breaker is and how powerful Chaos Breaker is, he probably might be the last deck to reveal on the streams before the set officially comes out. So that's pretty much pretty much already implied that they're gonna do that way. So I digress. Moving on, so we can maybe the Solar Fronts are one of the support you might need to get Chaos Breaker. And there's another card, Permanent Heart Base. I think again I'll give the tweet. You can take. I'll put a link in the description below so you can see the tweet of what cards you can get if you want to build Chaos Breaker. Permanent Heart Base is also one of them. Although to be fair, Permanent Heart Base is generic for any encounter deck, or rather any counter deck in general, or any icon deck. So that one I have. I can just always swap around. There's no issue with that. And the last card is basically there's one double rare. I think DZBT12. It's called quadruple circular. So essentially, like grade 2, what it does is that it allows you. Okay, if anyone of you has a lock card or has I think 2 set or so, you can count on someone to choose a opponent's regard and tyrant, okay, to a raider or whatever, somewhere along those lines. And it also has a permanent 15k base if you have set orders and if you set orders or if you're part of the bind zone, which it is cheap now. So like I said, if you want to get that card, better get it now because this is I think is a good time to get that card. And even if that card's not needed ultimately in Chaos Breaker, at least you're not making a big loss, so it's fine. It's like what 80 yen in the market price, at least in where I live. So 80 yen is not a lot. So if you really want to get it now, just by searching go and get it. So that's one of the 4 cards. I mean, guys, you probably need to get if you want to build Chaos Breaker in standard. And so here's some other cards that I think you could possibly play in Chaos Breaker. Again, I don't take my word for it. Take it with a grain of salt because ultimately whatever we're going to reveal in this stream is what you need to get ultimately. So it might change after this video. So yeah. So there are 2 cards that if it does require soul other than soul fronts, or 2 other cards you can consider putting Chaos Breaker if you want to, or it's the same technically the same card, but it depends on how much budget you have. So one card is Mikani. Go ahead, Mikani, the Great One, which you play Messiah. Although now with the new promo that Messiah came out, it's not necessary because Messiah has its own social now. It's basically a promo where essentially you attack your combat one, put a card from Dragon Soul, and you can either draw one or revive a Messiah from draw. So that's one card we would play. And in fact, do stay tuned for that particular deck update because I think now that Chaos Breaker is coming back, Messiah might have some prominence in the actual as a counter to Chaos Breaker. So it is what it is. So yeah. So like I said, Mikani is your soul charger. So it allows you to search for one and also pump soul just to build soul. That's all it does really, and it's the whole point of playing Mikani in Messiah. Another card which you could technically try because it is a common. I think what set was it? Okay, I'll put a picture on the screen right here. So Messiah itself. Oh, sorry, Messiah. Brangi has a clan icon support where on boost, if your Vanguard is a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with a clan icon, you can put soul charge 1. And opponent's Vanguard greater, it gets 5k. It's all of the nations have that one comment. So if you for some reason couldn't get Mikani or Mikani expensive by the time you want to get Chaos Breaker revealed, that is an alternative you can try. Although to be fair, but binding Social 1 might not be great because it essentially does social binding might be not detrimental, but more than it helps really. So let's just put it out there. So yeah. And speaking about locking, so that brings on another question to myself is that when Chaos Breaker does come to standard, what will happen to their decks? Do they just sit there and do nothing when they get locked, or will there be a counter to that? So I've seen some resources online, and people are speculating that if Chaos Breaker does have a potential, not powerful, but very threatening lock, there will be cards out there that will counter lock. So maybe they will unlock, like a normal unlock card, or there will be cards that will bounce cards and circles back to hand, which that really depends on how it is, because Chaos Breaker just introduced into standard, but we will see when there are more reveals. So these are the possibilities. They could potentially lock, or at the very least, if you really want to counter Chaos Breaker, Bracing Angel Ladder is actually coming back coming back to relevance now, because Bracing Angel Ladder allows you to just soul in, and then any of your regards cannot be chosen or leave the circle by the release. So that means the Chaos Breaker cannot cannot choose their regards to lock. So which means that Bracing Angel is coming back to have some relevance because of Chaos Breaker. So if you still have your Bracing Angel Ladders, keep them, because there's a chance Chaos Breaker might go crazy with the lock in there. So yeah, that's pretty much like my initial thoughts on it on Chaos Breaker. I mean, this is what I'm thinking about it. Like I said, take my words with a grain of salt. I don't mean this I don't mean this seriously, and this is just my shower thoughts on thinking about how Chaos Breaker might come back into standard. And there are some points I may miss along the way. So if you guys have any pointers you want to find out to me, do let me in the comments, and I'm more than welcome to discuss and answer your questions. But yeah, I mean, Chaos Breaker from the standard, it's really crazy. Like, ain't no way he's coming back. He's one of the last few cards we ever want to see coming back in standard format. And boy, oh boy. Speaking of that, Maelstrom Reverse is revealed on Thursday, tomorrow as this video. So I'm quite curious to see how Maelstrom Reverse will be in standard. We'll have to see. But yeah, that's pretty much my deck. My little shower thoughts on Chaos Breaker coming standard. So a little bit it's more of a little bit of a ramble, a little bit of a discussion myself. So well, I did prepare my playset, so you guys will see me play Chaos Breaker, or rather do a Chaos Breaker deck before once it's out. So do stay tuned for that. And so it's been a month away, so do stay tuned for that. I will get the out once it's done. With that being said, that's it for the video. Thank you guys for watching. If you like it, do like, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.